When my wife got home, I asked, "Do you love him?" Claire set her purse on the counter, her movements abruptly suspended. "Who?" "Derek," I said, watching as her face froze in that terrible moment of recognition. The silence between us expanded, becoming its own presence in our kitchen. This room, where we'd shared 14 years of breakfasts, arguments over bills, laughter with our children. Now it held something else entirely. Bradley. Her voice had that plea I recognized from when Tyler broke her grandmother's vase, a desperate wish to undo what couldn't be undone. I'd rehearsed this moment for days since finding the messages, imagined shouting, maybe even leaving. Instead, I stood motionless, oddly calm, despite the earthquake, dismantling everything I thought we'd built. "Just tell me the truth," I said, for once. Her eyes filled with tears as our life together balanced on the precipice of her next words. "I'll now create the first chapter of Beyond Betrayal according to the detailed specifications provided." Bradley Jenkins closed the dishwasher with his hip, wiping his hands on the kitchen towel as he surveyed the remnants of Tuesday night dinner. From the living room came the sound of Tyler and Sophia bickering over the remote, the familiar soundtrack of family life. "Mom said I could pick tonight." Sophia's 9-year-old indignation carried through the house. "You always get to choose." Tyler's 13-year-old voice cracked slightly, that new adolescent uncertainty making Bradley smile despite his exhaustion. He glanced at the clock. 7:42. Claire was running late again. Third time this week. Bradley folded the towel into neat thirds and hung it on the oven door handle. "Dad, tell Tyler it's my turn." Sophia appeared in the doorway, arms crossed. "Your sister's right, Ty," Bradley called out. "But compromise, 30 minutes each." Sophia's triumphant retreat was punctuated by Tyler's groan. Bradley shook his head, marveling at how children could make such cosmic significance out of Tuesday television. Claire's laptop sat open on the kitchen counter, where she'd left it that morning. The screen glowed with calendar reminders. She'd asked him to check if Tyler's orthodontist appointment was Thursday or Friday. Bradley sat on the bar stool, reaching for the touchpad. A notification slid onto the screen. Message from Derek. "Miss you already?" Lunch was. Bradley's finger froze midair. The message preview disappeared as quickly as it had appeared, but the words remained imprinted in his mind. Derek, Claire's colleague from the marketing firm, the one she'd mentioned with increasing frequency these past few months. Bradley stared at the screen, his reflection ghostly in its light. The sounds of his children's show faded into background noise as an entirely different kind of family drama began to unfold. The house had gone quiet. Tyler and Sophia long since asleep, Claire texting she'd be late again, work dinner. Bradley sat in the dim glow of the home office, Claire's laptop open before him. He shouldn't be doing this. 15 years of marriage, and he'd never once invaded her privacy. Even now, his finger hesitated over the messaging app icon. What was he looking for? Confirmation? Denial? Perhaps an innocent explanation that would dispel the knot that had formed in his stomach. "This isn't who I am," he murmured. But then, who was he now? A husband? A detective? A fool? Bradley clicked the icon. The messages loaded, and his world shifted on its axis. Derek, counting the minutes until tomorrow. Claire, me too. Same place. Derek, can't wait to have you all to myself again. Bradley scrolled up, then down, methodically cataloging dates, times, phrases. His accountant's mind automatically organizing information even as his husband's heart shattered. 6 weeks of messages, perhaps longer on her phone. The timestamps aligned perfectly with her late meetings and work dinners. One coincided with her weekend professional development seminar just 3 weeks ago. Bradley closed his eyes. His training in financial analysis now turned toward reconstructing his marriage. He reopened them, switched to her email, search history. Each digital artifact added another piece to the mosaic of betrayal. In her calendar, lunch appointments with deliberately vague titles. In her photos, nothing explicit, but new outfits he'd never seen, mirror selfies sent to someone else. He worked backward through time, charting the evolution of their undoing. The digital evidence was irrefutable, each message another nail in the coffin of his trust. The clock on the desk read 2:17 a.m. when Bradley finally closed the laptop. Outside, rain began to fall, the soft patter against the window oddly comforting in its indifference to his pain. Dawn found Bradley on the back porch, watching as the world shifted from gray to gold. He hadn't slept. His body felt hollowed out, scraped clean of everything but the decision before him. Inside, the house was stirring. Soon, Tyler would stumble down for breakfast, hair rumpled, followed by Sophia with her meticulous school outfit already selected. Their routines would continue, unaware of the fault line running beneath their family's foundation. Bradley watched a cardinal land on the feeder he'd built with Tyler last summer. The vivid red against morning light seemed almost obscene in its beauty. How could anything remain so untouched by his pain? The back door creaked open. Sophia padded out in her unicorn slippers, leaning sleepily against his arm. "Morning, Daddy." "Good morning, sweetheart." His voice sounded normal. How was that possible? "Are you making pancakes?" Her hopeful question nearly undid him. "Sure am. Go wake your brother." As she disappeared inside, Bradley pressed his palms against his eyes. These children, his children, deserved stability, protection, truth without destruction. He moved through the morning rituals with mechanical precision. Pancakes, lunch boxes, permission slips. Each mundane task a temporary refuge from the decision crystallizing within him. After dropping them at school, Bradley parked in the empty lot behind the community center. In the silence of his car, he finally allowed himself to think clearly about what needed to happen next. Not anger, not vengeance, just truth. He would ask her directly, tonight, after the children were asleep. A simple question requiring only an honest answer. Bradley started the car, turning toward work and the hours that separated him from the moment when everything would change. The kitchen light cast a warm glow across the granite countertop, where Claire was arranging leftover lasagna into containers. Bradley leaned against the doorframe, watching her efficient movements. 14 years of marriage distilled into domestic choreography. "Kids go down okay?" Claire asked without looking up, her voice light. "Sophia needed 2 stories tonight. Tyler's finishing homework." Bradley stepped into the kitchen, his heart hammering against his ribs. "How was your meeting?" "Productive." She snapped a lid onto a container. "The Westfield campaign is finally coming together." Bradley nodded, moving to the cabinet for a glass. The wedding photo magneted to the refrigerator caught his eye. Claire in white, his arm around her waist, both smiling at some future they'd imagined together. "Derek's ideas really pushed it forward," Claire continued, reaching past him for another container. "Derek." Bradley filled his glass with water. "You've been mentioning him a lot lately." Something in his tone made her pause, hands hovering over the food. "Have I?" "He seems important to you." Claire resumed her task, movements slightly stiffer. He's good at his job. Bradley set his glass down, untouched. The kitchen clock ticked, marking seconds that stretched into small eternities. When my wife got home, I asked, "Do you love him?" Claire's hands froze mid-motion. "Who?" "Derek." Bradley watched her face, memorizing the exact moment truth collided with deception. Her expression collapsed, a building demolition in slow motion. "Bradley, just answer the question, Claire." "It's not—" She gripped the edge of the counter. "It's complicated. It's actually very simple. I didn't mean for it to—" Her sentences fractured, each word a shard of glass. Bradley's voice remained steady, though something was breaking apart inside him. "Do you love him, Claire?" Her silence was answer enough, but he waited, needing to hear it. "Yes." The word barely audible. Then stronger. "Yes." The kitchen, their kitchen, suddenly felt like foreign territory. "How long?" Bradley's question hung between them like smoke. Claire sank onto a kitchen stool. 3 months. Maybe 4. Bradley calculated backwards. Christmas party, her new haircut, subtle changes in schedules. The ledger of their marriage suddenly reconciling with painful accuracy. "Were you going to tell me?" "I don't know." Claire's hands twisted in her lap. "I was confused. Am confused." "Confused." Bradley tested the word, finding it woefully inadequate. "About our 14-year marriage, our children, or just about which man you preferred to sleep with." Claire flinched. "That's not fair." "None of this is fair, Claire." The edge in his voice surprised even him. He took a deliberate breath. "Did the children ever suspect anything?" "No! God, no! I would never—" She stopped, perhaps realizing the absurdity of claiming moral boundaries in this moment. Bradley moved to the window, creating distance. Outside, a neighbor's security light illuminated empty driveways and manicured lawns, suburban tranquility mocking his private catastrophe. "He understands me," Claire said softly. "He sees parts of me that got lost somewhere in carpools and mortgages." "And I don't?" "You're a good husband, a wonderful father, but we've been going through the motions for years, Bradley. You must have felt it too." Had he? Bradley searched his memory for warning signs he'd missed, conversations they'd never finished. "I thought we were building something," he finally said. "I didn't realize you were looking for an escape hatch." Claire wiped away tears. "What happens now?" The practical question cut through emotion, demanding action where Bradley had only questions. He turned to face her, the kitchen island between them symbolic of larger divides. "Now we figure out how to tell our children their family is changing." By midnight, the kitchen table had transformed into a command center of painful logistics. Bradley's legal pad contained lists, schedules, questions, the architecture of separation rendered in neat columns. "I can stay with my sister until we figure things out," Claire said, voice hoarse from crying. Bradley nodded, pen moving across paper. "We need to maintain routines for the kids, school drop-offs, activities, bedtimes, as normal as possible. I'll take a leave from work." "No." Bradley looked up. "They need stability, not dramatic changes. Work schedules stay the same." Claire nodded, a flash of relief crossing her face that Bradley chose not to interpret. "We tell them tomorrow evening. Together. A united front about this, if nothing else." His pen hovered over the paper. "What exactly do we tell them?" "The truth," Claire said, then clarified at his sharp look, "that we're having problems and need some space, not about him, Bradley added another note to his list. Agreed, no details unless they ask directly. The refrigerator hummed in the silence. On its surface, Tyler's soccer schedule and Sophia's artwork, artifacts of the family they'd been yesterday. I'll pack in the morning while they're at school. Claire's fingers traced the wood grain of the table. Bradley, I truly never meant— Please don't. He cut her off, unable to bear platitudes. Not tonight. She nodded, eyes downcast. They continued working through practical matters, finances, temporary arrangements, what to tell friends and family. Each decision a small wound, each agreement a stitch in a gaping injury. When the essential blueprint was complete, Bradley capped his pen. We'll make this work, he said, surprising himself with the conviction in his voice. Not for us, for them. Claire nodded, and in that moment of shared purpose, they were briefly parents first, wounded spouses second. Dad, the toaster's smoking again. Bradley abandoned his half-knotted tie and rushed to the kitchen where Sophia stood on tiptoes, pointing accusingly at the ancient appliance. He yanked the plug from the wall, waving away the thin plume of smoke. Breakfast Plan B it is, he announced with forced cheer, retrieving cereal boxes from the pantry. 3 weeks into their new arrangement, and Bradley was still navigating the morning chaos solo. Tyler slouched into the kitchen, backpack dragging. I need $20 for the field trip today. Permission slip? Bradley asked, pouring milk with one hand while checking his watch. Tyler produced a crumpled form from his pocket. Bradley somehow located a pen, signed it, and extracted his wallet, all while preventing Sophia's cereal from overflowing. Mom lets us have Pop-Tarts, Sophia said, eyeing her cereal with suspicion. Mom's not here on Tuesdays, Bradley reminded her gently. But I'll put Pop-Tarts on the shopping list, deal? Sophia considered this compromise. Deal. They settled into a rhythm of sorts, Bradley checking homework while the kids ate, then hustling them through teeth-brushing, shoe-finding, and backpack checking. By some miracle, they made it to the car only 4 minutes behind schedule. As they pulled into the school drop-off line, Bradley noticed Tyler's unusually quiet demeanor. Everything okay, buddy? Tyler shrugged. Jason asked if you and Mom are getting divorced. Bradley gripped the steering wheel tighter. What did you tell him? That you're just having problems, like you said. Bradley nodded, heart aching. That was good. Are you, though? Tyler's voice sounded suddenly younger. Getting divorced? The drop-off attendant waved them forward. Let's talk more tonight, Bradley said, reaching over to squeeze his son's shoulder. As he watched his children walk into school, Bradley felt a strange mix of exhaustion and pride. They were bending, but not breaking. Perhaps he could do the same. Sunday evening's handoff had become a carefully choreographed performance. Bradley waited in the driveway as Claire's sedan pulled up, the children already gathering their weekend bags. Did they finish their homework? Claire asked, stepping out of her car. Most of it. Sophia still has spelling. Bradley helped transfer backpacks from his trunk to Claire's. I can do spelling with her tonight, Claire smiled at the children. Did you have fun with Dad? We built a birdhouse. Sophia bounced on her toes. And Dad didn't even get mad when I spilled the paint. Sounds exciting. Claire's smile seemed genuine. Tyler hung back, watching this exchange with the wary calculation of a child who'd learned to read adult tensions. Everything okay? Bradley asked him quietly. Tyler nodded. Mom's phone keeps ringing late at night. She thinks I don't notice. Bradley kept his expression neutral, though something cold settled in his stomach. People work late sometimes. Tyler's skeptical look suggested he wasn't convinced. Claire was checking her watch. We should get going. I've got dinner started. Any updates on the Westfield campaign? Bradley asked casually, closing her trunk. Something flickered across Claire's face. Surprise, perhaps wariness. It's progressing. Derek's handling most of it now. Derek? Bradley repeated. That's convenient. Claire met his gaze directly. Don't, Bradley. Not in front of them. He nodded, stepping back to hug his children goodbye. The practice pleasantries continued, everyone playing their assigned roles. Only after Claire's car disappeared around the corner did Bradley allow his smile to fade, Tyler's words echoing in his mind. Late-night calls, Derek handling things. Convenient indeed. The quarterly client lunch at Ramirez Financial always ran long, but Bradley typically enjoyed the chance to socialize with colleagues. Today, however, his attention kept drifting to the clock. "Jenkins, you're miles away," remarked Harriet Colton, the firm's senior partner, refilling his water glass. "Trouble with the Peterson account?" "No, just juggling the new schedule with the kids," Bradley replied. Harriet nodded sympathetically. "Separation's rough. My sister went through it last year." Bradley appreciated her tactful avoidance of details. Office gossip had been mercifully minimal since he'd shared the basics with his team. "Actually," Harriet continued, lowering her voice, "I wanted to mention something." "That marketing firm your wife works for. Apex, right?" Bradley nodded, suddenly alert. "My nephew interned there last summer. He mentioned some creative accounting practices. Nothing I could substantiate, but enough to make me move our business elsewhere." "Creative how?" Bradley asked carefully. Harriet shrugged. "Double billing, padded expenses, the usual games, apparently led by their golden boy, Derek something, rising star with questionable methods." Bradley's fork froze halfway to his mouth. "Derek Lanning? That sounds right. Charismatic guy, from what I hear. Clients love him, but the books don't add up." The restaurant suddenly seemed too warm. Bradley loosened his tie, mind racing with implications. "Is your wife still working with him?" Harriet asked. "Closely," Bradley answered, the word tasting bitter. After lunch, sitting in his car, Bradley pulled out his phone. A quick search for Derek Lanning Apex Marketing yielded several industry articles, including one featuring Claire and Derek accepting an award for the Westfield campaign. The photo showed them standing too close, Claire beaming up at Derek, a man whose professional success apparently involved more than just marketing talent. Bradley started his car, a decision forming. If Derek was comfortable being dishonest in business, what else might he be hiding? Bradley's home office glowed with the blue light of his computer screen, casting shadows across stacks of printed articles and financial reports. The children's bedtime had passed hours ago, but his research had only intensified with the silence of the house. What had begun as curiosity about Derek Lanning had evolved into methodical investigation. Bradley's accounting background served him well as he traced Derek's professional trajectory through industry publications, social media profiles, and business registries. "Rising star," one article proclaimed. "Marketing genius," declared another. Bradley created a timeline in his notebook detailing Derek's rapid ascent at Apex Marketing. Hired 6 years ago. Junior account manager to senior executive in half the industry standard time. Client list tripling under his management. Too perfect, too fast. Bradley searched financial databases he used for client research, finding Apex's quarterly reports. On the surface, everything appeared above board, but certain patterns caught his accountant's eye. Revenue spikes that didn't align with reported project completions, expense categories that seemed disproportionate. He reached for his phone, hesitated, then called Marcus Way, a former colleague now working at the state tax authority. "Bradley Jenkins. Been a while," he said when Marcus answered. "Too long. How are things?" Marcus replied. Bradley kept his tone casual. "Can't complain. Hey, I'm researching some potential partners for a client. Ever heard anything about Apex Marketing? Specifically, their financial practices?" A pause. "Unofficially, they've been flagged. Nothing actionable yet, but there's smoke. Any names associated with the concerns?" "Their golden boy, Lanning." "Why?" "Just due diligence," Bradley said, feeling a chill despite the warmth of confirmation. "Thanks, Marcus." After hanging up, Bradley opened another search window. If there was professional misconduct, how deep did it go? And more troubling, what did Claire know about it? The conference room at Ramirez Financial offered both privacy and resources. Bradley had arranged a meeting with Vanessa Ochoa, the firm's forensic accounting specialist, under the guise of a potential client concern. "These are public records," Bradley explained, spreading printouts across the table. "Apex Marketing's financial statements for the past 3 years, plus their major client contracts." Vanessa adjusted her glasses, examining the documents with practiced precision. "What exactly am I looking for?" "Inconsistencies, particularly in accounts managed by Derek Lanning." She raised an eyebrow, but asked no personal questions, for which Bradley was grateful. For 30 minutes they worked in silence, Vanessa occasionally making notes or requesting additional reports that Bradley had prepared. Finally, she sat back. "It's subtle, but it's there. Classic double-billing scheme, charging multiple clients for the same work hours. And here," she pointed to a spreadsheet, "expense padding, reporting higher costs to clients than actually incurred, pocketing the difference." Bradley felt cold clarity replacing emotional turmoil. Tax implications? Significant underpayment, probably 6 figures annually. She tapped another document. "And based on these signature authorizations, it's not just Lanning. Someone in accounting had to know." "Would the marketing director be aware?" Bradley asked, his voice carefully neutral. Vanessa shrugged. "Hard to say. They should be reviewing expense reports, but plausible deniability is possible." Bradley gathered the papers, each one now feeling heavier. The evidence was indisputable. Derek's professional success was built on fraud, and given Claire's position, she either knew and condoned it or had failed in her oversight responsibilities. Either way, the betrayal had just expanded beyond their marriage into criminal territory. Bradley paced his living room, energy thrumming through his body despite the late hour. The evidence against Derek was damning, the implications for Claire disturbing. Knowledge burned in his mind, demanding action. He could destroy them both. One phone call to the state tax authority, one email with attached documentation. Justice would be swift, the consequences severe. Professional disgrace, financial penalties, possible criminal charges. The thought brought a rush of dark satisfaction that both enticed and repulsed him. He stopped before the hallway that led to the children's bedrooms, their doors ajar. Tyler's science fair trophy gleamed on a shelf. Sophia's artwork decorated the walls, innocent lives already disrupted by one betrayal. Could he justify causing more upheaval? Was vengeance worth the potential collateral damage to his children? Bradley moved to the kitchen, mechanically filling a glass with water. Claire's dishonesty deserved consequences. Derek's crimes warranted exposure. The financial system depended on integrity, something he'd built his own career upon. Yet the line between justice and revenge felt perilously thin. He scrolled through his phone to the contact information for the state tax authority's fraud division. One call. That's all it would take. But what would that make him? A defender of financial ethics, or a husband using legal means to exact revenge? The truth, Bradley realized, existed in the uncomfortable space between principle and pain. He set his phone down, noticing Sophia's lunchbox on the counter, still containing a note he'd written that morning. Be kind, even when it's hard. His own words mocked him now. Bradley picked up his phone again, staring at the number, feeling the weight of the evidence in his office and the heavier weight of the decision before him. Justice or mercy? Exposure or restraint? The answer remained agonizingly unclear as night deepened around him. 3 a.m. found Bradley in his backyard, pacing the perimeter like a caged animal. Sleep had eluded him, his mind electric with rage and possibility. He'd abandoned the bedroom hours ago, unable to lie still with vengeance coursing through his veins. The moon cast his shadow across the lawn, elongated, distorted, barely recognizable as his own, much like the version of himself he was contemplating becoming. He imagined Derek's face when the investigators arrived, Claire's shock when her professional reputation crumbled alongside her lover's. The symmetry of their suffering matching his own had a certain dark appeal that both seduced and sickened him. Bradley stopped at the edge of the yard, staring at the children's swing set. How many weekends had he spent assembling it, checking bolts, pushing small bodies toward the sky, while childish laughter filled the air? What would those same children think of a father who used law as a weapon rather than a shield? His hands trembled, not from the night chill, but from the war being waged within him. Justice and vengeance wore such similar masks in the darkness. They deserve it, he whispered to the empty yard, testing how the words felt in his mouth. They tasted bitter, metallic like blood. He picked up a small stone and hurled it into the shadows, as if it could carry his rage away. It landed with an unsatisfying thud. The evidence waited in his office, damning, irrefutable. The power to destroy lives rested in his hands, his righteous hands, his trembling hands. Bradley sank onto the bottom step of the deck, suddenly exhausted. The fury that had propelled him through the night began to ebb, leaving in its wake questions without easy answers. What kind of man did he truly want to be? The first hint of dawn pushed against the darkness as Bradley entered his silent house. Emotional exhaustion had hollowed him out, creating a strange emptiness where rage had roiled just hours before. In the kitchen, he mechanically filled the coffee maker, his movements slow and deliberate. The calendar on the refrigerator caught his eye. Tyler's baseball tournament this weekend, Sophia's dance recital the following Tuesday. Life continuing despite the earthquake underneath it. As the coffee brewed, Bradley noticed his father's old accounting textbook on the bookshelf. He'd kept it after Dad passed, a reminder of the man who'd guided him into the profession. He pulled it down, dust rising as he opened the cover. Inside, his father's neat handwriting. To my son, Bradley. Remember, numbers never lie, but the people who use them can choose integrity always. Dad. The memory surfaced like a bubble breaking the water's surface. His father, 20 years earlier, refusing to sign off on a client's questionable tax strategy despite the substantial fee. Some things cost more than money, son, he'd explained afterward. Once you trade your integrity, the price to buy it back is always too high. Bradley ran his fingers over the faded inscription, hearing his father's voice as clearly as if he were standing beside him. The wisdom felt simultaneously ancient and immediate. The coffee maker beeped, but Bradley remained still, something crystallizing within him. His father had faced similar choices and found a way forward that he could live with, sleep with, teach to his son. Bradley looked out the window where darkness was giving way to the first delicate light of dawn. The path forward wasn't about what Derek and Claire deserved. It was about who Bradley chose to be in response to their actions. The answer had been within him all along, planted by a father who understood that integrity wasn't just a concept, but a daily choice made real through action. The offices of the state tax authority were neither imposing nor welcoming, just efficiently functional, much like the tax code itself. Bradley sat in the waiting area, manila envelope on his lap, his resolve steady despite the gravity of what he was about to do. "Mr. Jenkins?" A woman in a charcoal suit appeared in the doorway. "I'm Diana Rodriguez, Senior Compliance Officer." "Thank you for coming in." Bradley followed her to a small conference room, noting the recorder on the table. "Before we begin," he said, "I need to clarify something. I'm here as a concerned financial professional, not as a disgruntled husband." Diana's expression registered mild surprise. "I'm not sure I understand." "You will." Bradley placed the envelope on the table. "These documents show evidence of tax fraud at Apex Marketing, specifically involving their executive Derek Lanning. And your interest in this matter?" Her tone remained neutral, professional. "I'm an accountant. I believe in financial integrity." Bradley met her gaze steadily. "I also need to disclose that my wife works at Apex, though I have no evidence of her direct involvement in these activities." Diana nodded, making a note. "That's an unusual level of disclosure, Mr. Jenkins. I want this investigation to be about the facts, not personal vendettas." "Understood." She opened the envelope, quickly assessing the organized documentation. "This is quite thorough." "It's what any ethical financial professional would provide," Bradley replied, the weight on his shoulders lightening with each passing moment. They spent the next hour reviewing the evidence, Bradley answering questions with the precision his profession demanded. When the meeting concluded, Diana walked him to the elevator. "The system works best when people like you do the right thing," she said. "We'll take it from here." Bradley nodded, knowing he had chosen a path his father would recognize, one his children could someday respect. Bradley sat at his desk, reviewing the final draft of his report to the IRS Whistleblower Office. After his meeting with the state tax authority, he decided to pursue all appropriate channels. The federal implications of Derek's tax fraud deserved equal attention. "Form 211, Bradley murmured, scanning the document one last time. The whistleblower form was thorough, requiring detailed evidence and clear articulation of suspected violations. He'd spent days organizing bank records, tax filings, and client billing discrepancies into a comprehensive narrative of financial deception. Diana Rodriguez from the state authority had called yesterday. "We're moving forward with an audit," she'd informed him. "The evidence you provided was compelling." Bradley had thanked her without mentioning how her words had validated his approach. Justice through proper channels was working. Now he attached the final supporting documents to the IRS submission. His finger hovered over the Submit button, a moment of recognition passing through him. This action would set irrevocable consequences in motion for Derek, possibly for Claire, too, depending on her involvement. But unlike his late-night backyard pacing, he felt no vindictive satisfaction, only a quiet certainty that he was doing what was necessary. what was right. He clicked Submit. The confirmation screen appeared immediately. Your report has been received. Case number IRS-WB 27591. Bradley printed the confirmation, filed it in his records, then closed his computer. The wheels of justice were now turning independently of his emotions. The process would unfold according to facts and law rather than hurt and betrayal. He glanced at his watch. Just enough time to pick up Tyler for his baseball practice. Life continued, even as unseen mechanisms of accountability began their work. As Bradley left his office, he felt lighter somehow. He had chosen integrity over vengeance, process over passion. Whatever happened next would happen on its own merits. Bradley was setting the table for dinner when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, Claire's distorted figure shifted nervously on the porch. His stomach tightened. This wasn't her night with the children. "Claire," he said, opening the door, but not stepping back to invite her in. "The kids are at my mom's for the evening." "I know. I wanted to talk to you." Her eyes held a pleading quality he hadn't seen since the night of her confession. "Alone." Against his better judgment, he let her in, leading her to the living room where family photos still lined the mantel, reminders of what they'd once been. Claire sat on the edge of the sofa. "I've been thinking about us, Bradley, about what I threw away." "Claire, please, let me finish." She twisted her wedding ring, which she still wore. "Derek and I, it's over. Has been for weeks. I made a terrible mistake." Bradley remained standing, maintaining physical distance. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want to come home." Her voice cracked. "The children need their family together. And I miss you." Something in her desperation seemed genuine, tugging at memories of happier times. For a fleeting moment, Bradley imagined reconciliation. The family restored, the wound healed. Then reality reasserted itself. Trust, once shattered, couldn't be glued back together with regret alone. "I appreciate your honesty," he said finally, "and I'm glad you've ended things with Derek. But our marriage isn't something I can simply restart." "We could try counseling," she suggested. "For the children." "The children need parents who model honesty and self-respect," Bradley said gently. "Right now, that means separate households." Tears filled her eyes. "You've changed." "Yes," he acknowledged. "I needed to." She wiped her eyes, nodding slowly. "Are you seeing someone?" "No. I'm learning to be on my own." When she left, Bradley stood at the window, watching her drive away, feeling both the weight of what they'd lost and the strength of the boundaries he'd maintained. Autumn painted the neighborhood in amber and crimson as Bradley raked leaves in the front yard. 2 months had passed since his reports to the authorities, seasons shifting while justice moved at its own deliberate pace. Tyler emerged from the garage with a second rake. "Dad, can I help?" "Always." Bradley smiled at his son, noticing how he seemed taller, more confident lately. The initial trauma of the separation had given way to a new stability. They worked side by side, the rhythmic scrape of rakes providing a soundtrack to their companionable silence. Occasionally Bradley caught glimpses of neighbors watching them, the newly single father and his son, objects of community curiosity and sympathy. "Mom said her company's having problems," Tyler mentioned casually, breaking the silence. "Some kind of audit." Bradley kept his expression neutral. "Companies go through that sometimes. Is that why she seems worried lately?" "Could be," Bradley replied, careful not to reveal knowledge he shouldn't have. "Financial reviews can be stressful." Later that evening, after the children were asleep, Bradley's phone rang. Diana Rodriguez's name appeared on the screen. "Mr. Jenkins," she said when he answered. "I wanted to give you a courtesy call. We're executing search warrants at Apex tomorrow. Things will likely become public." "I understand." Bradley's heart rate quickened. "Thank you for letting me know." After hanging up, he sat in the stillness of his living room, contemplating what tomorrow would bring. The investigation had progressed beyond his control as he'd intended. Justice would now unfold according to its own principles. He thought of Claire, of the children, of Derek. No satisfaction came with the news, only a solemn recognition that actions carried consequences, and truth eventually demanded its due. The waiting was nearly over. Bradley's morning routine was interrupted by his phone buzzing with a news alert. Apex marketing executives indicted on fraud charges. He set down his coffee, opening the article to find Derek Lanning's corporate headshot prominently featured. The financial news outlet detailed the culmination of a months-long investigation. Tax evasion, wire fraud, false billing practices. The allegations matched exactly what Bradley had documented in his reports. His phone rang. Marcus Way from the tax authority. "Thought you'd want to know," Marcus said without preamble. "Your due diligence paid off. Lanning and 2 others were taken into custody this morning." "I saw the headlines," Bradley replied, his voice measured. "Thank you for letting me know. Off the record, there's talk of client restitution, whistleblower reward potential too." Bradley hadn't considered that possibility. "That wasn't my motivation. Most whistleblowers say that," Marcus chuckled. "But when they're writing 6-figure checks, motivation becomes irrelevant." After hanging up, Bradley stood at his kitchen window, searching for the triumph he'd once imagined feeling. The vindication, the satisfaction of seeing Derek face consequences. Instead, he felt a strange emptiness. Not quite disappointment, but recognition that justice, while necessary, wasn't the victory he'd thought it would be. Derek's downfall didn't repair his marriage or erase the past months of pain. The real victory, Bradley realized, was internal. Choosing integrity over vengeance, maintaining dignity through crisis, becoming someone his children could respect. The legal consequences were merely the natural outcome of Derek's choices, not Bradley's achievement. His phone buzzed again with a text from Claire. "Have you seen the news? Can we talk?" Bradley texted back, "Yes, after work." Coffee shop on Maple. As he finished preparing for his day, Bradley realized that what once would have felt like the climax of his story was merely another step in a longer journey, one focused not on Derek's downfall, but on his own rebuilding. The coffee shop offered neutral territory, public enough for boundaries, private enough for honesty. Claire arrived looking both professional and vulnerable, the strain of recent events evident in the shadows beneath her eyes. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, settling across from Bradley. "How are you holding up?" Bradley asked, genuine concern in his voice. "The board put me on administrative leave pending investigation." She wrapped her hands around her cup. "I should have seen it, should have questioned the numbers." "You trusted him," Bradley said simply. Claire's eyes met his. "Like you trusted me." The weight of parallel betrayals hung between them. "Did you know about the fraud?" "No." Her answer came quickly, firmly. "But I should have. It was my job to know." Bradley nodded, believing her. "Sometimes we see what we expect to see." "The investigators said someone submitted detailed documentation." Claire studied his face. "That was you, wasn't it?" "Yes." "You could have destroyed me, too. Included me in the allegations." "That would have been vengeance, not justice." Bradley replied. Tears welled in Claire's eyes. I've been so wrong about so many things. About Derek, about our marriage, about you. Bradley felt an unexpected wave of compassion. We both made mistakes, Claire. Different ones. Can you ever forgive me? The question hung between them, heavy with implication. I already have, Bradley said after a moment. Forgiveness doesn't mean erasing consequences or pretending it didn't happen. It means I'm not carrying the anger anymore. Claire nodded slowly, understanding the distinction. Thank you, she whispered, for being the person I should have recognized sooner. Sophia's school gymnasium buzzed with excitement as families gathered for the winter concert. Bradley secured seats in the middle section, saving space beside him for Claire, who was running late from a job interview. Tyler fidgeted with his program. Dad, when Mom gets here, can she sit with us? Of course, Bradley replied, noticing his son's concern. Jason's parents got divorced, and they sit on opposite sides at school stuff. They don't even talk to each other. That's not us, Bradley assured him. Your mom and I are still a team when it comes to you kids. Claire appeared then, slightly breathless. Did I miss anything? Just starting, Bradley said, shifting to make room. Sophia's class filed onto the risers, her face lighting up when she spotted both parents sitting together. She waved enthusiastically, and Claire and Bradley both waved back. She looks so grown up, Claire whispered. Going on 19, according to her, Bradley replied with a smile. They shared a moment of quiet laughter, the kind of parental understanding that transcended their personal history. As the concert progressed, Bradley found himself aware of how far they'd come. 6 months ago, sitting beside Claire would have stirred anger and resentment. Now he felt a different kind of connection, not the intimacy of marriage, but the enduring bond of two people committed to parenting well despite personal pain. After the performance, they took photos with a beaming Sophia, their temporary unity bringing obvious joy to both children. Ice cream to celebrate? Claire suggested. Can we, Dad? Sophia pleaded. Absolutely, Bradley agreed. As they walked to their cars, Claire touched his arm lightly. This is good, isn't it? For them. For us too, Bradley acknowledged. Different, but good. He watched his children walking ahead, their resilience a testament to love's ability to evolve beyond broken promises. Some endings, Bradley realized, contained unexpected beginnings, not the future he'd once planned, but one with its own potential for joy and meaning. Spring had come to the garden Bradley had planted with the children last fall. Green shoots pushed through soil that months before had seemed as barren as his future. He knelt to weed around the emerging perennials, finding quiet satisfaction in nurturing something new. Behind him, Tyler and Sophia argued good-naturedly about whose turn it was to use the garden hose. A year had passed since that fateful evening when a single question, "Do you love him?" had collapsed the architecture of their family life. Bradley brushed soil from his hands, surveying what they'd built from those ruins. Not the life he'd planned, certainly, yet somehow, improbably, one with its own unexpected gifts. He'd learned that truth, however painful, creates stronger foundations than comfortable deception. That integrity isn't just an abstract virtue, but a practical pathway through life's darkest moments. That choosing justice over vengeance heals the one making the choice as much as those affected by it. Most surprisingly, he'd discovered that family transcends the boundaries of traditional structures. His relationship with Claire had evolved into something neither of them could have imagined, a partnership defined not by romantic love, but by mutual respect and commitment to their children's well-being. "Dad, come see," Sophia called, pointing to a cardinal perched on the birdhouse they'd built together during those first difficult weeks. Bradley joined his children, feeling a contentment that wasn't diminished by the scars he carried. Perhaps that was the most valuable wisdom he'd gained, that healing doesn't mean erasing the past, but integrating it into a more resilient self. The journey from betrayal to this moment hadn't been linear or simple. It had required daily choices to prioritize love over bitterness, growth over grievance, future over past. As the cardinal took flight, Bradley watched it soar against the spring sky, a vivid reminder that beauty often emerges from the most unexpected places, including our deepest wounds.